Just a couple of injury things. Najee Thompson did have a left knee kind of aggravated, and he was ruled out and did not return. And Dalton Reisner, kind of a chest deal he was able to return. So for the most part, able to come out pretty healthy today. I really appreciate the feeling in that locker room right now of you can feel why those guys battled today, why they continue to fight all the way down to the very end. Not one player in there looking to not continue to play as hard as they possibly could, compete like crazy for the guy next to him. It's a good feeling to know that is what exists in our locker room. Not good enough to get the win today, but like I said, I did appreciate the way we battled, the way we tried to come back and see if we can eventually chase down tying the football game or taking the lead, and we were just unable to do that. And then kind of the end of game execution by them and a couple turnovers there by us. Just didn't have enough to get it done today.
Can you speak to what Justin played today all season?
Yeah.
The fact that he didn't really shut down when he's injured, and what do you think his future is?
Yeah, I can't say enough about him. I think you try to explain it about what his impact is on the game, and for him to have the success that he does when sometimes he's playing against multiple defenders, and his understanding and how he's been so willing to really learn about how people are defending them and then apply some of the things we're coaching, and then his natural ability just to have this kind of production again and against this group and on the road, and just continuing it means a lot to him to be a captain of our team. He sets the standard of competing at a world-class level, and there's a lot that we can all follow as far as the example he sets. I don't know what his final numbers for the season ended up with, but I know Justin, in the games we had him, especially the full games we had him, was as dominant as any player in this league, and it didn't matter the adverse circumstances that we're in as a team. He continuously provided much more than even the baseline of what you would think against some of the looks that he does get, which is remarkable. Absolutely love coaching the guy. He knows that, and hopefully we're just getting started with him and where we're going to take our offense. Yeah, I think we'll definitely evaluate every facet of schematically how we approach putting together our team and attacking things. We'll take a look at maybe certain aspects of what we can do for sure to limit some of the negative plays, especially early on in the season. Feel like some of the fumbling issues early on in the year. As a coach, you emphasize it, and you really spend every waking moment talking about it, and our players responded. I think we had, really one fumble lost by a skilled player over the last 11 or 12 weeks now. And we turned the football over the second half of the season via interceptions, and that's where by no means can we just sit back and say because we didn't have Kirk, this is what happens. I refuse to allow that. I'll definitely take a hard look at, how if we don't have our starting quarterback in the game, how we can adjust better. And try to play a little bit more complimentary and while still, making sure Justin's being activated and we're being explosive and all those things. But in the end, we've got to do what we think we need to win football games. Because I do know one thing, the type of guys we have in that locker room from a makeup standpoint and the leadership we have and the feelings that these guys are ready to go back to work even right now after kind of the grind that it has been with some of the adversity this year. It gives me really, really positive feelings towards what we have the ability to build here in the future, and understanding that everything that has transpired, we have to own it. We have to make sure we're looking inward and reflecting on it the right way. Then it starts with us as coaches, starts with me first and foremost, and then that will be how we start preparing our 2024 team based upon the things we need to do better, improving anywhere we can on the roster, and then ultimately putting together the best possible scheme mixture with what I feel like is a pretty damn good group of guys, what they have inside and what it means to them to be a Minnesota Viking. I think there's a lot that goes into that, but the biggest part of it is knowing right now at this moment that we've got to own it and move forward the right way and attack it every single opportunity we get.
Kevin, on the 70-yarder to St. Brown, what was the coverage supposed to be?
Yeah, I believe we were kind of going to maybe an inverted kind of 2-deep look there, where the corner might have been responsible for the deep half. And from my vantage point, I have not talked to Flo or any of our guys about it. From my sight line, it looked like maybe we bit up on the underneath route, whatever it was, outcut, and the integrity of the deep part of the field might not have been there. And Jared found it, and it was a huge play considering kind of where the momentum was at in the game, and we were just trying to hope to get one more op to maybe see if we could tie it up.
Kevin, obviously Justin didn't get the contract done last summer, and historically things can go in all different directions around the NFL when that happens. Why do you think it didn't happen that way for him when he went had the season that he
As far as the contract?
Yeah, like in other words, it could go sideways sometimes, but sure.
Yeah, that's the one thing I would I would not classify it as ever having gone sideways.
Yeah.
I think it was close. I think there was
No,
some.
I mean, like, why did it could have gone sideways and created, who knows what.
Oh, I gotcha.
And then he
Yeah.
went on to have the season.
No, I appreciate that question because I think it highlights who Justin Jefferson is. Specifically today, he reached 1,000 yards. There was a lot of football after that he went out and played, and it had no bearing on when I told him, late in the game when I was going to take him out to protect him for the off season and everything moving forward. He didn't like that either. This guy wants to compete. This guy loves being a part of that locker room with his brothers in there. He's so talented, but what makes him so special is the competitive drive to be great. Thinking back to how he worked through training camp and how his early part of the season was going. My expectations is that Justin's going to be a major part of everything we do around here for a long time, and he knows that. He knows the feelings that we have for him and that I personally have for him. I don't think there's any doubt in his mind about that.
Kevin, I know this one is really fresh, but just can you put into order just the magnitude you feel like these next few months are going to have on you guys' future?
Yeah, I think I know we'll get a chance to catch up, a little bit later this week. But I think it's just going to be critical to understand, really after two years of inventory, and I don't know if the years could have been really any different from one another as far as the success we were able to have and win the division and win a lot of close games in year one. Got to look inward and how did things transpire differently this year, whether it be the turnovers, whether it be the inconsistencies in some areas of our team, and then ultimately the injuries and what we can do. We'll look at each and every one of those. We'll look at the circumstances behind it. We'll look at how we're building the roster, snap counts, all those things, to make sure that we just are building the right kind of team from a depth standpoint that can withstand some adversity throughout the year. And then ultimately our jobs as coaches is to make sure we're coaching up the techniques, the details, and the fundamentals to play the right kind of football. Because you mix that and the improvement that we will gain from that side of things with what we have in that locker room from a makeup standpoint and the type of group that it feels like couldn't be more connected and more together, even in times of difficulty and adversity. I think we'll have the right formula. But once again, it's difficult to win in this league, but I do believe we've got an off season to do whatever we can to make sure we continue to give ourselves the best possible chance to go out there and compete to try to go be NFC North champs again and give ourselves an opportunity in the postseason.
Kevin, you talked about not using purpose when you're as an excuse, not letting that be an excuse. How did you fight the human nature when it wasn't as Kirk? Because it seemed like guys were continuing to drop week after week. How did you fight that?
Yeah, you're always stressing the next man up mentality. You're always stressing, when the adversity hits for guys to try to do a little bit more. Maybe if you are one of our guys that we're really relying on, can you be the best version of yourself to help overcome? Maybe it's not a direct, your direct position, but you can sure make it easier for the guy next to you. You can sure make it easier in offense, defense, and special teams by mastering your role, winning your one-on-one matchups, and being a difference maker. So I think the challenge was always to continue to try to thrive with our best players that we did have, but also coach up and really hunt the player development in real time, so that next man up mentality meant we were still trying to compete all the way down to the very end. I thought for the most part throughout the season, close games that didn't go our way, was kind of telling us that we were fighting it and we were trying to just overcome it, and we just didn't do enough to win some of those football games and get over the hump and burst through to have a chance at the postseason.
Last two. Kevin, just with Justin, looked like a lot of emotion, a lot of frustration, maybe different things on the sideline today. What was fueling some of those things when he's coming over? Just looked like coming off of a lot of emotion.
Yeah, probably earlier on in the game. I would think, I know he didn't have a target in the first quarter or didn't have a catch in the first quarter, whatever it was, and then we were able to get him going a little bit there, get down in the low red, and he was frustrated about wherever we were, first and goal at the 8, and then we go backwards, and it's tough to try to, activate him on those long yardage situations once we took the negative. Looking back on it, not a very good play call there on second down, trying to attempt something there, and took the big loss, and then we were settling for three from there. You can't have it both ways, right? You can't have a guy out there that's whatever he went for, 192, and competing down 12 catches on 14 targets and competing like crazy to win the game. The reason why that is what it is the fire inside him to do that, and the frustration is going to come sometimes when we don't execute or we don't capitalize on some opportunities, and that's all part of it. I would be thinking, I would be a little worried if it wasn't like that, to be honest with you, just because of knowing who he is and how much this game means to him every single snap out there.
That's one. How did you see him handle it, just playing with all these different quarterbacks this year when he's had all the consistency with Kirk, and then obviously that shifts this year?
Yeah, it was. I thought it was, just specifically looking at where he's kind of been these last, since coming off the injury, just the maturity of going out there and trying to just make sure I'm doing my job, consistent, whatever it takes, and knowing he's going to get some opportunities. And he plays a position that relies on other factors in our offense, especially when he's seeing some of the coverage that he does. And that's where we got to continue to build up around him, build up our scheme around him so that we have different ways, not only to help him overcome some of those things and still have the success that we need him to have, but also the group as a whole, offensively as a whole, and really our whole football team, from how you need to put it all together to play complementary, because that's the number one thing that winning teams do, besides clearly the winning and losing stat of turnovers. It's the complementary football. I know field position wasn't a pretty story today. It felt like we were backed up quite a bit. A lot of long yardage third downs because of some protection on some play pass and things like that, penalties. So we got to clean it up, and ultimately, just thinking about Justin and just what he means, it was a tough year for him because of the types of goals that he has. So watching him go out there and do what he did today under really difficult circumstances speaks just so much to him and what he's all about. Thanks, guys. We'll see you this week.